Hey, what's up, Louisiana Crafts? Hard. It's just taking me a second to get. Welcome. Appreciate you coming back. Friend of the show. Member of the Discord. Let's see if I can get on here. What's up with you, Louisiana Crafts? I'm gonna have to split my hands here. Friend of the show. I like when people come early and on time. That's the way I am. What's up with you, Louisiana Crafts? Show. I like when people come early and on time. That's the way I am. Putting on my gloves. I'm getting a pretty bloody blister on that one hand from the hand planing. Welcome, everybody. Make sure to click that like button and subscribe. If you're a crafts person trying to create a live forestry woodworking crafts forum here, that's what we're always trying to do. Welcome to Dad's Workshop. That's 80. I want 60. 36 is good too. Just doing this a little so I don't get splinters working on this. After you plane it, you get a really sharp edge. Kind of awkward here. Out, Ben. Out. I think my stop line is somewhat in here. Excuse me. I had to blow my nose. I'm coming back from a cold right now, folks. Trying to keep it moving. Don't fall. No, that's not bad. It's coming on at a little bit of an angle there. Yeah, it wants to turn that board at a slight angle. That kind of indicates that I need to actually take more material out of this housing and not the tie beam, which is this long beam. It's turning that joint at an angle, so that means that when it's going in, I gotta look at it one more time. When it's going in, it's taking my housing beam or my vertical beam and it's turning it slightly to the left, like slightly counterclockwise. So that means that something is forcing this board that direction. And it would have to be material on this side probably. I think if I just make the joint wider in general, a little bit wider, it can be a little bit looser, I think. Or take the tenon down, one or the other. I gotta look at it one more time from that angle, see. It's a little straighter now. Now I cannot have this split, so I gotta make sure it's a little less than fully tight. It looks like the housing might be a little bit low. That little inset right there. So that might have to be adjusted. Can't see the other side, but I would check that too. Welcome to Dad's Workshop. If you're stopping through, make sure you click that like button. Subscribe to the channel. We just went over 500 yesterday, looking for new subscribers. We just hang out here. Feel free to drop something in the chat, get a shout out. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Numbers just went up. Happy to see you. Welcome to Dad's Workshop, where we do woodwork and hang out and talk about stuff. Drop something in the chat so I can give you a shout out. Appreciate everybody coming. You have numbers creeping up just a little bit. Welcome to Dad's Workshop. Your forestry forum and chat. We're hanging out. Working on a bunk bed, and this is the tie beam and the vertical post for a bunk bed, timber framed. I'm working on getting the through mortises and tenons on here. Looks like my housing right here is not lining up exactly right. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way. I'm gonna have to either cut the housing, or I might have to, I'll have to see. I'm gonna have to get this all the way on, probably here. I don't want to force it either. I want to make sure it's kind of loose when it goes on, because it will split. These are laminated boards. It'll split these straight in half, and I can't have that happen. Well, welcome to Dad's Workshop. Thank you all for being here. Questions, comments? Where you been? What you doing? What are you working on? Leave something in the chat. I'm here. I'm not leaving. That's about right on, actually. If I can get that tendon a little, I just want to take it down a little bit. I can put this leg all the way on, and then I will have to decide how big this hole is going to go in this tendon. I'm going to put a hole in the tendon just wide enough. It's going to be mostly behind where it would go in here, just with maybe 3-4 millimeters of a slot in front of it, so I can put a wedge in there and hammer the wedge in. And once that wedge goes in, it's going to hold this tie beam to the leg firmly, and that's what we want. Firm connections, firm joints. And as I always do, everything slowly and carefully. Against the top. Gonna push them in. Generally don't do that. Don't hold your workpiece while you're chiseling into it. It's not good form, and I shouldn't show you that. I want to welcome all TikTok refugees. Poor TikTok. Once upon a time, there was this platform called TikTok, and they had really weird live streams. I'm gonna tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a platform named TikTok. And TikTok was a happy platform. It came from very far away. But TikTok liked to speak its mind. And Uncle Sam didn't like that. So evil Uncle Sam battled TikTok. Secretly tried to give TikTok a poison apple. And then TikTok almost escaped the poison apple. But not quite. Looks like TikTok's gonna go bye-bye. And I'm not laughing about it. I don't think that's funny. But I do not like that TikTok is like really exclusive about how they do live streams. So if I'm gonna complain, that's gonna be my major complaint. I like TikTok for a lot of stuff. It's a shame it's going away. Am I right? So welcome all TikTok refugees. You have a home here. Welcome here. And if you're from California and you're just trying to find something that's going to put you to sleep or something, you're dealing with the wildfires, thoughts and prayers to all of you. Of course, you all beat my Vikings yesterday, so hopefully that helps you lift your spirits a little bit. So you got thoughts and prayers to everyone in Southern California that's dealing with the wildfires or has family dealing with the wildfires, whatever the case may be. Lost someone, God forbid. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, as far as I know, Vitaly, here in the U.S., you're going to still be able to probably access TikTok over in Ireland. But I think it's gone in the U.S. But welcome to the show, Vitaly, friend of the show. See, that's when the traffic starts picking up. Vitaly, unexcused tardy. And I even had hot tea for my Irish and UK folks. Well, it's mostly because I'm sick, but I have had to. Yeah, Miss Heather is a huge TikTok person. Yeah, so what Miss Heather's saying, Vitaly, is that U.S. TikTok users are moving to a Chinese platform that's called Red Note. I've never heard of it. Maybe you've heard of it. It has to do with politics, man, and the belief that TikTok, I believe, I don't know. I shouldn't speak uneducated about it. I believe it has to do with like um, fake news ish type stuff. Like they're worried about misinformation. That's the word for it. They're worried TikTok is providing U.S. users with misinformation, or foreign powers are using TikTok as a means to distribute propaganda. That if I'm right, if I'm wrong, somebody correct me. But I believe that is the belief. I'm not saying that's true. Yeah. So Vitaly, to answer your question. Oh, we're good though. Other than that, man, great day. How about yours? You find anything else out about your school thing? Yeah. So Vitaly, when you get in school too, once the live picks up, what we're gonna have to do is like have you call in and talk about jobs you're working on. You have an accent probably, so it'll make the show cooler. You know what I'm talking about? Thumbs up. So as things go on, we get you on here. Friends of the show will have call-ins and stuff. That's really right the direction I want to take this. So eventually, it's a matter of time, Vitaly. I'm not going nowhere. This channel is gonna grow. I'm gonna will that. So as you get into school, hopefully everything goes well and you continue to do woodwork, which is destiny, your destiny, right? So um, you do that, and then we have you call into the show. That's ideally what would happen, and then you can talk about any projects you're working on that aren't boring. We don't want to take too much off this. Yeah, it's kind of what it's designed to do, keep you on the screen. Same with this app. It's, I mean, I don't, I'm not, I love YouTube, so not to take anything away from it, but the idea for any streaming app is for you to never leave that. That's the idea. They want to keep you on. And I used to tell kids at school this when I was teaching. I would tell them that your information is already being bought and sold. Like your name, your address, who's in your family, what you look for on the internet. Obviously, you all know about target marketing, um, things like that. Uh, but they want to keep you on all the time. So they've got scientists working basically 24 hours a day all over the world, designing ways to keep your face on that screen. And that's what it is. That's where the world is. So I would tell the kids at school, I said, you might as well run a stream. You might as well make content because you're already giving content away. You're giving your number, your address, everything you look up, everything they want to know about Hey, Juanita, unexcused absences, unexcused tardies. Unexcused tardy today, even though I know you just got off work probably. Unexcused absences the last couple days. But welcome back, friend of the show, Juanita. Juanita, welcome back. It is pretty tight right there, and I do not want to force that. There's not a joint you want to force, especially since I've laminated the board like this. So we want to make sure that we leave enough tolerance in here. Oh, you got the, okay, good. Glad you got the message. Glad you were listening when the teacher reprimanded you for your unexcused, it's indefensible is what it is. Indefensible. I just like using, I've been using that word recently. Heard a podcast guy say it, so I like to overuse it. Juanita's absences have been, fill in the blank with this word, indefensible. Indefensible. But I'm glad she's back, Juanita. Glad you're back. Seems like it will come some more. Let me give it a little bit more hammering. I don't know. That may be splitting my boards. I'm a little worried. Hope not. If it does, you'll see an epic fail live. I'm praying that this lines up, but I put a ruler against it. It doesn't look too good right now. Oh, we miss you too, Juanita. Of course, we mentioned you in the last couple episodes, so you are now in TikTok history being mentioned even when you're not here. So if that makes you, that should hopefully tell you that you're important here. Yeah, it looks like just the width of the ruler maybe, or like there's a millimeter gap here, but we're gonna have to see. This housing has to line up. I want to bring the camera in, but then I lose all my viewers. So I want you to see a close-up of this, but I don't also want to move the camera too. I dropped my phone the other day doing this. It does feel like it's getting to resistance here, and I do not want to. I've got these two boards laminated, and even though they are very strong, have good tensile strength, if I force them right here, I cut this joint a little bit wrong, I'll admit. And so I might split these two boards if I don't make sure that this joint is loose enough that this thing can go on without, but it right now, that's like a typical joint, like that's how tight you want it. Oh yeah, definitely, man. As long as it's not like I spent the whole. Well, you know what? That's what we do here, though. That is exactly what we do here. We talk about the minutia, so it's no problem that you like. I learned how to make plywood out of 3 pieces of wood today, and uh, I learned how to use a routing table, stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff we want to always talk about in here. Seems like whenever I start getting down to this stuff, I drop in viewership, and I hate that. Make sure if you're here, you like and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate everybody. Dad's Workshop. It's like a mental massage for you. Friend of the show, Vitaly here. Friend of the show, Juanita. before everybody came, friend of the show, Louisiana Crafts was here, so let me shout out him. Shout out Louisiana Crafts. I think he may have left though because it was a little slow around that time. So anyway though, I shout people out who aren't here. So yeah, we'll definitely do that, Natalia. We'll plan on that. So I really want to test this joint to see if it lines up here, but due diligence is such that I need to take it back off and I need to pare away some more of this wood, maybe just a fraction of a millimeter, probably more on the end, on the end of this tie beam that's closest to this joint, to the housing. That's the part that's wider, and it's fluted, kind of reverse fluted. So if I keep pushing this, the more it gets further up this joint, the more it's likely to split. So I got to take off, pare down that joint a little bit more. This is the process. Yeah, stuff that sells cutting boards. So I'm giving you some. This is game to be sold right here. Best stuff you can do to start out with, like live edge cutting boards, charcuterie boards. Like kind of, I think I did one of those on here. I did a charcuterie board early on. At least I partially did it and I finished it on my own. Charcuterie boards, and then like easy tables where you build the table surface and join it, and then you attach already made legs. Like that's something you want to look into, like joining the surface of the table, taking wood, and we can do that on here where I show you how to laminate it or join it side to side with dowels, and then put legs on them, man. Make them look nice, but you don't have to craft the legs or design the system. The table, that's the key there. So I would start with a project like that, since you're kind of I don't know how new, I should have already asked you this, Vitaly. How much experience do you have? Again, what I'm doing now is just to be sure I don't mess my joint up, because this can actually, when you cut a joint like this into a solid piece of wood, you can split it also. It's just anytime you're putting a wood in, a joint like this in to a board, and you're going like it's against the grain kind of, so you're perpendicular to the grain. Doing that's the weakness of the wood. So you got to make sure that you make the joint so it fits really well, so it doesn't stress those wood grains outward. It'll split straight up the middle. That's where the weakness is. So down the grain. Yeah. So like start with a charcuterie board. I've got a video where I take all of the pieces and side join them, just, you can use scraps to make these. I one time traded a long cutting board that I made, and I made it in like a couple hours. I traded it for a MacBook because somebody wanted to give it as a gift, and they had a MacBook they weren't using. So there's all kinds of stuff you can um, like you can make good money off cutting boards. Vinyl wrapped furniture, yeah. Like upholstering, yeah. Boxes is good. Boxes are always good. Yeah, it was a good trade. You're right, Juanita. I felt like I ended up on the better end of that trade. But my boards are good, you know. Shout out to Big Ron, who's one of my subscribers, who has won the Academy Award for podcast for 2 years in a row. Shout out to Big Ron if he happens to be out there. Oh, it's Big Ron. Or wait for it. My friend Big Ron, his sister bought a table from me, and I made him a custom board for free because his sister was so generous and was so excited to get my table. I was excited to make one for her. So shout out to Big Ron. Oh, it's Big Ron. This is podcast. Good guy. Known him for since I was in school, like high school, secondary, like what Metallica calls secondary. I am a little bit better. Welcome back, Gary. Gary, friend of the show from the UK. Nah, you don't need for charcuterie boards. You can do it with basic tools, a handsaw. I did it with all hand tools in my video. I did all the hard parts, which would be taking the board and fashioning the board, like putting the little things next to each other, making sure they're nice and flat, and clamping them up. Make sure you got a bunch of clamps. You need a handful of clamps, and the woodworking rule of thumb is you never have too many clamps. Clamps are how you get that security on your board. Man, my numbers are like horrible right now. But welcome, Gary. My mic is cutting in and out. Let me clip it up here. Hello, check, check, check. Let me make sure my internet is good right here. It's not great. That might be part of it. Is it better? Good. That's good. Okay. I broke my microphone on that last live stream of last week. I don't know if you saw the last minute where I was saying bye to everybody. I dropped my phone with the microphone hooked up in it, and it cracked the little jack off. So now I'm back on my old microphone. Picture is blocky. All right, so that has to do with my connection. I listened to this podcast the other day where their connection is always good, but I'm a fan of the show. I wouldn't do this to them, but the fans all said that the sound wasn't right, and it made them stop everything they were doing to go check everything. I thought it was funny because their sound was fine. Well, it's nice and smooth right there. I don't want to take too much of that off because I actually pared that end down a bit. Oh, you did see that? Oh, yeah, it was not good. I had a few very quiet moments of prayer after that. Oh, I hear some like crickety cracking going on. Looks like it still needs more. Yeah, it's a bit tight. Yeah, it's like always, there's always more. This is woodwork for you. Yeah, it wasn't great for me, but yeah, definitely, I guess you could call it a cinematic ending. Horrible for me. At least that moment. I'm gonna take the microphone off while I blow my nose. I'm still recovering from this cold. All right. Yeah, I just liked that microphone. Like I liked the sound quality was really good. I want to move that camera over here so you can kind of see how it looks over here. And I think this is kind of educational, so hopefully I don't drop anything in this process. Very carefully. Walk around here. So it fits, right? But it's very tight. So if you can see, these are two laminated boards put together. If that joint is too tight, it's gonna split straight up the middle. So that's why I'm taking the time I am to like go back and pare it down and make sure that it's loose enough that it won't split those two boards apart. Because they're strong, it would split a normal board if you put it in and it was too tight. So if that was actually like a 4x4, it would split a regular 4x4 if you had a joint cut in. So you have to be careful regardless. There's a conversation about yeah, so I got to look and see what you asked. It looks like his question is about sharpening because you're talking about very high grit sandpaper. Oh, okay. Gary Morton question: how do you sharpen your chisels? So, yeah, and Anita's probably heard me answer this question 500 times, but that's okay. That's what we're here for. So, here are my, and I've done this a couple times too. So repeat of a repeat. We have three sharpening stones, or not stones, three pieces of wood here. On top of this one is 800 grit sandpaper, basically like drywall sandpaper. I don't know what this one is because this is an old block. It looks like 1,000 or 2,000. This is 2,000. I start on this one with some oil. You take your tool, and I don't want to put this tool on here because it's very sharp already. Let me take one that's less sharp. So you take your chisel, 45-degree angle here, and you have your oil on your, so you take a piece of wood, first of all, and you got to attach that sandpaper to the wood. I use glue and screws, but don't screw it on the side you're going to sharpen on. You don't want to hit your tool against the screw. So you're going to start with some oil or liquid on here, alcohol, water, it really doesn't matter. You need a stropping liquid. 45-degree angle on the lower grit, right? And then you move up. Once that's kind of sharp, you move to the higher grit and you work it on the higher grit paper. Then you test it. The way I test my chisels, and you need some like leather, a piece of rag or something to strop off the material. The way I test it is I put it against my wrist and see if it cuts off hairs. If it'll cut the hairs off my hand and my fingers, then it's sharp enough. You know, that's how I test them. Hope that answers your question, Gary. I want to take the material from the, I'm tempted to take this board off and actually work on the housing and not the tenon anymore. I think the tenon's the right size. So I want to work on that housing piece rather than working on the tenon. I think if I just clean it a bit, but I got to move some stuff off my bench here. Cheese boards are good too. I usually give those away though. I haven't sold a tremendous. I had an Etsy store where I sold quite a bit of charcuterie boards and cutting boards, but not a whole lot of cheese boards. I made a bunch, but I ended up giving most of them away. I would go with a larger size board because you can use scrap pieces of wood to do it, and various ones because people like them when they're two-tone and different color combos. By the way, if you're new to the channel, please click that like button and subscribe. Number's a little low right now. Kind of concerned, but get my likes up to 10 today and I'll be happy with that. 501. I lost that combo about the. Oh yeah. Okay. I'm ready, Juanita, for your question. I was trying to figure out where I was in the chat. Yeah, that's called a hand plane. Good question. So this is a hand plane. This planes wood out. It makes it flat. So right under here, there's a blade, and I recently sharpened this. So I had to take the plane kind of apart. There's a whole bunch of different pieces of it. They call it one part a frog. I think that's this thing in the front that holds the blade down. Then you have this other thing, it's called the shoe. It's a lot of pieces to a hand plane. And Japanese planes pull, Western planes push. So I use a mixture of Western and Japanese tools. This one is kind of an expensive. I have a couple of these. I think my other one's kind of, other one's missing actually. I don't know where my other hand plane is. That's unfortunate. But this one here, you see the blade. It's a nice long heavy plane. The blade right here, and when you set it, you have to be ever so careful that it's only protruding down from the bottom by a very, very small margin. And it has to be perfectly level or you're not planing, you're really just chiseling. So yeah, and once you have this thing, and I haven't actually planed these a lot. If you have it calibrated properly and sharpened right, you should be able to get ribbons, long ribbons of very thin pieces of wood out of it. Somebody asked me yesterday about that, so I pulled one out, or the other day. Mine are pretty good. Like this is a nice long piece right here. This is pretty flat wood right here, so probably not going to find much to. You want to plane from every direction, flip it, do it again. You want to have a good flat reference edge, because if the one side is not flat, the plane is going to go the wrong, it's going to plane it against that. So hand plane, that's what this is. No, palm sander is going to Like an oscillating sander is gonna make a bumpy surface. You're gonna end up with it'll take the surface down, but it's gonna make it rounded and bumpy, not flat. A planer is gonna get it exactly flat, and that's what you're looking to do. I use wood shavings as decoration. They sell them actually online. I use them for decorations when we sell candles at our candle stand. And I also, well, when you calibrate it, you're going to sharpen the blade. Let me say one thing at a time. So the shavings, I use them for decorations, and also they make very good tinder for fires. If you're setting a fire, a grill, something like that, you could melt wax into them and they would make like a little survival tool. But the shavings, I generally just keep them in when I need to. I throw them in a fire for tinder, or I use them as decoration. The question was, does a palm sander do the same thing? No. Palm sander is going to round out a surface. And then any tips on calibration? Carefully and slowly. Mine was frustrating, and I left it for the night, came back, and I think this hand plane was like over $100. So no joke, kind of an investment for a beginner. Start with a little cheaper one that has a blade in it. You can find used ones all the time that are cheap where the blade is gone and you can't find a new blade for it. So don't get one of those. Maybe an antique store and look for one that has a blade in it. You got to see a blade down in there. And then you can fix it. You take that blade out and sharpen exactly how I showed y'all how to, and it will be a good usable plane. I have woodblock ones that my great grandfather made that I want to restore on the show. That they just look they're built the same way, but they're made out of wood. The only metal pieces are like the frog and the shoe. Now, as far as calibration, take your plane apart very carefully, and also sharpen the blade very carefully. Make sure that maybe you need to use a guide to keep it at a 45-degree angle. Do not sharpen your blade unevenly, because if you do, you're gonna have an uneven, it's gonna cut unevenly. So take your blade out very carefully on very fine sandpaper. I did all of the sharpening on this blade on 2000 grit paper. So do that, and when you put it back together, there's some videos on this you should probably watch. And you test it on some wood, you need to look to see if your shavings are coming out. If it's hard to push, it's not sharp enough. If you're cutting too much wood out, it's too deep. If it's not cutting evenly, then you need to adjust the blade to make sure that it's level. There is a way to set the plane upside down, take a piece of wood on it, and like run it back and forth and be able to tell. I don't remember exactly how they do that. And then there's a way to use like a ruler against it. I would look at some videos on that. I wish I had all the answers for everything. I kind of did mine the way I remembered how and kind of stumbled through it. Oh no, don't trust me only. It's a bad situation. All right, let me work on this joint a little bit. And I didn't want to take any more out of this housing until I took the tenon down, because the more wood I take out of this housing here, the more weak it makes the joint. It's going to make the wood on the edges weaker. So I waited till I had my tenon almost sized right. And now I'm going to attack the inside of this housing a little bit to try and make it just slightly looser when that board goes on. Hope that helps, Gary. It wasn't a whole lot of good information, but I'll tell you, I had to watch several videos on YouTube before I found a good one on sharpening the plane. It's not done very often. You do it only when you have to, because every time you take your plane apart, you risk like making it very difficult to put back together. They're kind of a pain in the butt, I'm going to be honest with you. Especially when you can use an electric hand plane. They're about $140 or $150. We use hand tools on the show. I'm gonna stay true to that. But electric hand plane is a good investment. I got electrocuted by mine the first day I got it because I ran over the cord. and it went right through the handle of the machine. It was one of the worst shocks, probably the worst shock I ever felt in my life. I thought I was going to die. I had to go in the house. So be careful you don't run over the cord. Good reason to use hand tools. Let me show you that so you can see that too. Oh, my hand planer might be in the house. I don't see it over here. I got a lot of cool power tools, but I'm not always showing them off. Oh, here it is. All right, this is an electric hand planer right here. This is a Bosch one. This is a pretty decent one here, and I've beat it up a little bit. It has more of like a hammer system on the bottom. So this is an electric power tool. The first day I got it, I ran right over the cord, and you can see how it's jerry-rigged back together. I put wire ties, electrical tape, and then taped it with several other tapes on the part when it's under tension, but it electrocuted the crap out of me. I thought I was going to die. But this is like an electric version of the hand plane, so that you can see. This is a Bosch model. I'm not paid by Bosch, obviously. So I'm not necessarily, it's an okay tool. Probably you can get a little cheaper model that would be just as good. But yeah, you would turn this on. I would hit this button in the power and leave it on and just push it on the wood. Good stuff to use, good stuff to know. Of course, make sure there's no metal in anything when you're planing it. You hit a piece of metal with it, you ruin it. Oh, I just rewired it and went back. I also did it with a $700 power saw I got. I ran right through the cord. I think there's like a funny commercial like that. You know I'm clumsy. You all have learned that. I've broken stuff on here before. If you do stuff slow enough, though, it can counteract your clumsiness. Or my clumsiness. If I do stuff, let me speak in the first person. If I do stuff slowly, it can counteract my clumsiness. Kind of a little tightness in that bottom, in those bottom corners. That's maybe a little bit above an entry-level plane. It's not a super expensive one. I bet there's more, but that's a fairly expensive electric plane. Yeah. All right, now I'm taking some housing. Let's try it again. Let me move everything back. All right, fingers crossed that this is loose enough. Probably won't be, but loose enough to kind of go on, but not feel like it's going to stress this joint open. This still looks like there's a little too much there. Better. I still think it's a bit tight. I got to be honest. I don't want this splitting on me on the show. So, more. That's a little more than before. I do want to get it to a point where I can measure out where my through mortise is going to go, through pin is going to go on this. It's got to sit just kind of slightly outside of where the housing is, where the tenon goes through the housing. You got to cut your hole right there. And it's got to go into where it's going to be behind the housing, because it's going to pull that board into the other board. Both boards are going to be pulled by these pins. There's going to be tension on them. Well, you just do your best, Gary. You, when I cut it, I made three-dimensional layout marks, you know, to make sure that my joint was as square as possible. That's kind of all you can do when you're working inside of a housing, you know. Right now it looks like maybe it's taking my board a little bit counterclockwise, but it's better than it was earlier, so it's obviously straighter. When I'm paring a joint away, I'm usually taking my chisel and turning it at a 45-degree angle so that it's acting like a planer. So if I go like this with a chisel at a 45-degree angle against something, it's going to be a flatter way to chisel. It's not going to take too much material away. So think when you're paring waste away, that like going at a 45-degree angle, right? So inside that tenon, the thing that I cut, to answer your question, Gary, I had my chisel mostly at this angle until I was pretty sure it was straight, and then I came straight down with the chisel. Hopefully that's an elaboration worth saying. 12 likes is good, actually. A little bit low numbers, but the like numbers are good. So if you're here, welcome all TikTok refugees, live stream junkies who love to be involved in live streams, and shout out, throw your name on there. Let me give you a shout out. We like talking to people on here. It's what we do. So yeah, so we're almost there with this thing, man. It's really tight though. I don't want to force it anymore. I'm gonna have to take a little bit more material from the tenon, I think. I'm not going to take any more from the housing. I'm afraid that's going to weaken it. So take a little bit more from this part of the tenon, and then I think it'll go on, hopefully. But, you know, these things have a way of being unpleasantly surprising. Murphy's Law. TikTok refugees. Say it again, Juanita. In about a minute, I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to try to go for my full hour and a half to 2 hours tonight. Just give me a minute to, like, I'm kind of sick, so make sure I got to get hydrated and stuff like that. Thanks for the well wishes, those of you who are asking me if I felt better. The answer to that is like a little, I guess. Kind of a like a wily cold that doesn't want to go away. I'm usually like quick to get over these things, and it's frustrating me because Miss Heather's heard me too whining about it. It won't go away. I hate being sick. I like to do stuff. Got stuff to do. Can't be sick, man. You only get so many days of life. Spending it in bed is just so depressing. Unless you're trying to do it. A day in bed that you need is a good day. Don't get me wrong. But all right, give me about a minute and I'll be back for more Dad's Workshop. Welcome, welcome. All right. And we're back. So did I mark on the tenon whereabouts it's a bit too thick? No, I'm doing this by ear. It's kind of difficult to say. I can kind of see on the tenon where it's a little bit fluted or where there's a little bit of material. I'm just taking it off gradually because I don't want to take too much off. That's always how it is with woodworking. But excellent question, as usual, Gary. Appreciate it. Great question. I've never seen woodworkers like remark the tenon once they did the layout marks. It is tricky to get these exactly straight. You know, you want to probably use a level. We can check it with a level here. And probably more of the table. And I don't really need this level so much here. I need it to go in and hold. But yeah, there's a little more off of the front than there is. You can see that than there is off of this side. So obviously this side needs to have more more wood paired away from it. And that's natural because it's close to where the joint meets, and that's hard to chisel away. So those little spots, I probably should use a little chisel to do this, and I will. I'll take a small chisel here. Let me shut the door. The garage door open. It's cold. And even now, you can see I'm generally approaching this from like a 45-degree angle against the grain. So the way the wood grain is going, 45-degree angle to kind of tear a small amount of material away. And it works it, just whatever's raised gets worked away. It kind of is instinctual after a while. You get a sense for it. Once I get this on, and I think I have a feeling that this time I will. Once I get this on, I'm going to mark a spot. We're going to say 1 inch above where the, behind where the tenon exits the housing. And then I'm going to take the piece off, and I'm going to take that line in about another inch into where the housing is. Probably less than that, about a ½ inch. But I got to decide that in a minute. I'm going to come up with a number here. It'll probably be, I need it to be thick enough that the pin can not get broken. It needs to be a thick enough pin for that. Good night, good night. Yeah, it is late out there, man. Yeah. Appreciate it. Vitaly, friend of the show, Vitaly, signing off for the night, man. Definitely, man. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for stopping by. Sweet dreams to you. Yeah, it's late out there. This is looking nice and straight now. I think it's going to go in easier this time. I could measure it out probably and get a dimension on that. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a pin. I need to find a piece of wood to use for my pin. Probably be like this piece of cherry right here. I'm going to take this cherry and cut it at an angle from both sides. And that's going to be like a wedge. And then there's going to be a hole here in the tenon. And that hole in the tenon is going to be partly behind where the housing is and partly exposed. The pin will go in there and will push that beam. It will push that the beam against the tie beam, and that's going to cause that tension is going to create a tight joint, and that's what we're trying to do here. So I'm going to say it probably should be the width of this. So if I look at the width of this piece, because this is what I want to use for the pins, because I could probably cut 4 pins out of this piece of cherry. It's an inch wide, so we would do that wide side an inch, probably each one. Let me see how long this is. I need 4. How many pins do I need? I need 4 pins, so I got to cut 4 pins out of this piece, and it is 12. Just under 17 inches long. So I could get 4 4-inch pins. The pin has to go all the way through. It has to be able to be grabbed so that we can pull it back out, even though it will be kind of hard to do that. So 4 4-inch pins, an inch wide, and then tapered, so that when they go in, they're gonna push that joint out. It's gonna that action is what makes these joints so cool. So we're gonna say 4 4-inch pins. Long, inch long, and an inch wide. Use wide side horizontally. So I want the width of it to be horizontal here, because I don't think the other dimension is an inch. It's probably less. Yeah, no, it's more like 3/4. So I'm going to use that 3/4 side is going to be the top to bottom. Wide, it's going to be 1 inch, and we're going to cut 4 pins out of this. It's 3/4 inch side is horizontal. All right, I think we're ready to put it on now. Yeah, cold's got so much fluid in my head when I lean over, it makes me dizzy. All right, I think this is ready. I'm gonna really have some faith here and really try to hammer this in, because I believe it should go. I mean, it's nice and loose up to that point, and I want it to be tight, so it's not like, yeah, I could push it most of the way here. It still gets real tight there. It does worry me a little bit. Hey, Santorian, what's up, man? Santorian 2090, friend of the show. Got a few unexcused absences, but we'll excuse the unexcused absences. Santorian, welcome. I lose one, I get another. It is very tight right now. I hear a little crackling. I don't want to push it past that point. Now that's as close as we got it so far. So it's not bad, but I'm not going to, if I can hear it crackling, I'm not going to push it beyond that point. It's still got to be some material taken off of this side here. Yeah, it'll shimmy its way on, but it may pop straight open, and you'll see two boards go like this. It'll knock my light out. It'll probably knock my camera off because that will spill over, so I can't have that happen on my live. So here we go. We got to do some more, and I don't want that to happen because that would be a lot of work down the drain. All right, let's use that little chisel. Actually, you know what? No, I take that back. Let's do this. Yeah, I'm almost there. Yeah, tight fit. That's where it is right now. Can't push it anymore. Learned too many times not to do that. Broken dovetails and stuff doing that, can't do it. You want it to be tight because that means you got the right, one of the members is too big. And so the way that you deal with that is just keep adjusting it until you get there. I've seen guys use files, and that would even be longer, so. And I know the other side is almost like this, where it's fitting, and that's where we've been last couple of days, was on that other side. That's why this one is, it looks like I've done the same thing for 6 hours or so, because I kind of have. I've done both sides of this thing. So my goal is just to get that thing on so I can measure this spot that we're going to create. It's going to be a 1/2 inch on either side. 1/2 inch beyond the housing, 1/2 inch inside the housing. So that's going to be where our pin goes. Take that inch and divide it into 2. Put 1/2 of it outside, 1/2 inside. Someone commented that they heard my stomach growl when they watched the live replay. I thought that was funny because I always talk about that. My stomach just growled a second ago. I don't like the size of that piece of wood that wants to come off right now, but I'll try to stop it like this. Man, it's a big chunk. Some of these ends of these tendons are probably sawed off, so it won't be a big deal, but I got a big chunk right here that wants to come off. Now, to Gary's point, this side no longer looks straight to me, so I am worried about that. It kind of has a little anglish to it. Let's take some sandpaper to that. We don't want those little ridges. One trick too, when you get it close, is to bevel the edges with a chisel. I like to go over the chisel and bevel the edges. It kind of leaves a little more tolerance. You usually don't do this though until you have the joint almost cut. All right, let's go again. Down to only the most loyal last of the Mohicans in here right now. If you're still with me, appreciate you. If you're new, appreciate you also. We'll probably wrap it up soon. I'm not gonna keep you here all night. Let's try this. Definitely loose to that point. There we go. Now this housing is just a little bit, this is what I was worried about. The housing doesn't meet exact, oh no it does, there it is. Wow, look at that, that's not bad. Maybe a little adjustment that could be made to that. See how it sits right in that seating area? I mean, it's not perfect, but that's what you're looking for right there. So now that I know I've got it in the seat area, maybe a little offset. So I'm going to take a pencil, and actually there is some play here. So this pin is going to really help keep this thing level and straight. There's some, let me see this too. It's not plumb. We got some definite issues with plumb here. It needs to be like right there. So this has to come around this way. I'm gonna have to chisel away some of the top of that. Yeah. There have to be some more play, or I got to get it plumbed, you know, somehow here. That's about where it needs to be, about right there. I'm forcing it up though. All right, let me get my pencil out and do some little sketch drawings here. All right, so I said it's gonna be a 1/2 inch outside the housing, and I want to make sure I mark exactly where it is on this joint. I want it in the strongest part of the wood. So right in the middle of the tenon, which is about 3 inches. So we're gonna put it at 1.5 inches. The mark of center, and then since the wide side, I wrote down all the stuff on that piece of wood. The 3/4 inch side is horizontal, so it's going to be like this going through, and I want to put it smack dab in the middle. So I'm going to find the center of this. There's a trick to this too. I wish I remembered it. I don't remember it right now. It's under 3. It's like 2 and 7/8. So I got to do some math. 2 and 7/8 divided by 2. I might do inch from bottom. Do an inch up from the bottom rather than trying to split things in half. I need a 1/2 inch out from that. Let me make sure I get my width right here. I'll put that stick. On the 3/4 inch side is horizontal, so it's going to be like this. It's going to start right there. Let me see. It's 3/4 inch. Make sure it's exactly that. It's not. Point is, we're going to start at 1 inch up from the bottom of the tenon. We're going to cut the whole 3/4 of an inch up. Yeah, 3/4 of an inch up. It's going to be a 1/2 inch on this side of the tenon. And it's going to be a little bit offset. It's not exactly all the way seated on there. 1/2 inch out from that spot. All right, so I got a little layout mark for where I'm going to start that pin hole. We absolutely do not want to split the tenon, so we got to make sure we put it in a strong part of this tenon. I'm a little worried about the placement in the tenon, but we're going to cut that out there. I wish I could show you. I'll have to show you all tomorrow. I got that marked, and then I got to take the tenon, take the vertical leg off and put another 1/2 inch mark on the other side of that. I'm going to go back and check them again too. Basically a square hole is going to be in this tenon here, and I've got half of the layout done. So what I got to do is now flip it on its side, finish this layout, and that'll be it for tonight. And then we can work on how to get that vertical thing plumb, which means straight level from top to bottom, on the next live. Bye, Gary. Take care, man. Good night. I was about to sign off anyway. Appreciate you, man. Stuck around for a while. Gary, friend of the show, shout out. All right, and this is gonna wrap it up. So I've got my tenon here, and I've got 1/2 inch layout mark here. I need to extend this another 1/2 inch. And this speed triangle will help me do this really well. So all right. I know it seems crazy, but this is what we got here. This little square hole. That's what took me the last 20 minutes to do. You can see I got this little layout mark here. We're going to cut that exact square out. Half of that square is going to be behind the post, half in front of the post. And we will do that on my Wednesday live tomorrow. We'll work on cutting that out. Probably use a little drill on it just to get it started so I don't split away any wood. Appreciate everyone being here this evening. We almost hit that 2-hour mark. I'm going to wrap it up now since I'm not 100%. Shout out Juanita, Santorian. Appreciate you being here, even though I didn't have a whole lot of show after you came. Gary, shout out Gary. And everybody else, friends of the show. Appreciate y'all. Join the Discord convo. We're gonna get that started. I know it's not kicking yet because this channel is still new channel. We just had our 500 subscriber stuff happen yesterday. Appreciate everyone being here. Love you all. Have a great night or day, whatever it may be. Juanita, see you later. Thanks for Juanita being so loyal, sticking around the whole time. Appreciate everybody. And I'm out.